The meeting of the WSESD on October 14 will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it's important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and the agenda. If anyone has difficulty connecting or remaining connected, please let one of us know in the space. We will do our very best to reconnect you. Nevertheless, this meeting will continue as posted. If appropriate, agenda items are subject to potential action. If a board member feels that an item on the consent agenda warrants discussion, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be set aside for discussion. In this way, the consent agenda will be approved in one motion. That request should be made now or before the vote on the consent agenda. Jessica.
I have a amendment to the minutes from September 30th.
Okay. Tracy, are you online to hear this? Tracy Bronze? She is. Okay, great. And so this is from September 30th. Jessica?
Correct. Under the who was in attendance, I was there and my name is not.
Your name is not included?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so noted.
I apologize.
Okay, that's September 30th. And I have an addendum to the, bear with me 1 second. To the October 10 minutes. And that is, as we went into executive session, Kelly Yellen was invited. And she's not noted on the minutes. That's on October 10th. Okay, any other changes to the consent agenda? All right, are there any amendments to the agenda itself as it stands? All right, so we are going to move on to student matters, student voices, being Riley Bristol and Willow Sharma. If you would tell us what the subject matter is, that would be great. And the floor is yours.
We would like to speak about student engagement across elementary, middle school, and high school in the district. So moving through the Windham Southeast school system, both of us have observed many students struggle moving from elementary to middle school and high school. This is reflected in the low percentage of participation in clubs, sports, and other school activities. We spent a year working alongside the Student Advisory Committee where this was often discussed. We questioned, why don't students want to stay in class? What is the barrier keeping students from getting excited about receiving their high school diploma? And is there a central disconnect that many students find when moving through our school system? As your student representatives, we are incredibly focused on improving student engagement through their education. We attended different elementary and middle schools in this district and can speak to our experiences and to those of our peers as we moved up into the high school. Though our classrooms are incredibly similar and we had similar school-based activities, we didn't have the opportunity to understand the next stages of our education when we moved schools, especially into the middle school. We proposed to research this disconnect to understand how to better prepare students on their journey through the WSESD school system.
Our research proposal includes meeting students at each secondary school in the district to set up listening sessions and interviews by asking sixth graders about their excitement and fears about moving to BAMS and what would help them with this transition. We also propose interviewing the cross-section of BAM students and other middle schoolers to hear about what they would like to see offered as part of their transition to VHS. We will design a survey instrument using both standard questions and open-ended questions to elicit a variety of responses and feedback. At the conclusion of each interview session, we will anonymize and aggregate feedback to provide a final report that we will present at both BAMS and VHS with recommendations for improved student support. We are requesting 10 minutes at each meeting every other week, where we will give updates on our research, plans, and data, and our next steps. We are very excited about this project and hope to make a difference and establish new annual events to continue to increase student engagement.
Okay, so are you requesting 10 minutes at every board meeting to provide an update?
Every other week.
We meet every other week?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right, great. Thank you very much, that would be great. Tim?
I think this is great. I'm wondering if you have a research advisor.
We don't have one planned out yet.
I would recommend one because there are pitfalls that you have to avoid when you do this kind of research.
Can I just say, behind us, we have something going on, a hood or something that's making a lot of noise.
Yeah,
So
but-
you've got to project your voices out.
But I just applaud your initiative. I think it's important. I think you're really on the right track. We make data-driven decisions. You're collecting that data. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ruby?
I'm hoping that today or at some point, one or both of you can connect with someone from the Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee. One of the things we're focusing on is preparedness for high school across our various middle schools. And so it's just a question that has come up, and so it dovetails with some of the things you're talking about. So I would encourage us to either have you come to a meeting or just help to inform our conversations at that committee level, so we can talk more about it kind of offline so that you can understand. And there'll be an update later in the meeting in terms of what's on the agenda.
Awesome.
Well, Guilford Central School solves problems when they arise. Thank you very much, John Gagnon. Thank you. Wow, suddenly
In here.
sound is perfect. Okay, Rudy, who's on this committee, please?
I'm on the committee, Brian Reamer is on the committee, Jocelyn Fritz is on the committee, and Jessica Everlith. Tim shows up, but he's not on.
Okay, so Ruby, Brian, Jessica, and Jocelyn. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. All right. So Ruby, Brian, Jessica, and Jocelyn are on this committee. And certainly, if you need further follow-up about getting in touch with members of this committee, just reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's a great initiative. It's exactly what we need. Okay. Any other comment from students? All right, I don't see any hands up virtually, so we are going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. So if there is any comment on non-agenda items from the public, that would be great. Okay, I don't see any hands up. we are going to move on. Just a couple of notes. One, our evening concludes with an executive session. So with that in mind, I am going to move our discussion points along. And there will be times perhaps when I look to curtail a discussion that is an ongoing issue. So please accept my apology. And a couple more notes. One, our next meeting is on October 28th. It is in Cusick. It begins at 5 o'clock with supper. It is a summit. And the actual warned meeting begins at 6 p.m. So again, we begin at 5 with a supper in Cusick. Time for us to mingle and to get to know each other in that initial hour. The following meeting will be on November 4, not November 11. November 4 will be Putney Central, and I believe that is the first Tuesday in the month. So we're changing the cycle a little bit because November 11 is a school holiday. Okay, and then after that, I think we're back in sync. One thing, please, everyone, and this is true for everyone online, please take a look at the calendar and the agenda because we are moving from site to site. And so tonight we are at Guilford Central School. Thank you, Guilford, for hosting us this evening. All right, we are moving on to yet another announcement. And as you can see, and I've put this online with a link, BCTV has chosen to award Windham Southeast School District with a Government Education Partner of the Year award. So congratulations to us for our transparency, for our accountability, and as the notice says, the notice from Johnny Gifford, who is the Executive Director of BCTV, there will be a party November 14 at the Stone Church starting at 6 p.m. Everyone is invited. November 14 at the Stone Church starting at 6 p.m. There is a link on this agenda. He interviewed both Mo Hart and myself, and Mo and I were sitting side by side in the central office, and one thing that Mo and I said, we were almost like a Greek chorus, is that this award does not belong to our district. This award belongs to BCTV for their hard work, for their consistency, for showing up always, and for people like Peter, who is always there with good humor through long, you should turn the camera on yourself and not wave this way. Okay, he's busy waving and smiling. But for sitting through long evenings in a variety of different sites and always having good humor in dealing with us. So this award really belongs to BCTV. We feel that very sincerely. Anyway, this notice is here, and it is for the entire community to turn out. Moving on, Leadership Council updates. Tim.
I have a recommendation from BAM's parent teacher who attends multiple leadership councils. And her recommendation is that that the board consider a common board update that all leadership councils use. She said that some of our updates are detailed with links. You know, they really love the detail and the comprehensiveness. Others are just very minimum. So she asked, why not just have one common board update? I'm just passing on that recommendation.
I think that's great. If there are any volunteers, that would be wonderful. I am going to say that as a board, we meet twice a month. And our minutes are comprehensive, and our minutes begin with an abstract of the critical issues within, let's say, a 5-6 page document. So it's a lot of work to put that together. We already have Tracy Bratz and we have Matt Shelley who do this. So I'm wondering what more needs to be done to accommodate leadership councils. Ruby.
So the Communications Council is meeting on Wednesday, I think. Is that tomorrow? Thursday. This week we're meeting. And one of the things we're focusing on is a comprehensive communication plan. And that's one piece of what we're talking about, is that engagement opportunity with the leadership councils, because that's come to the attention of the Communications Council as well. So I think my guess is that we're going to be focusing on trying to get some format or some form that can be used to communicate collectively what is the work of our board, so that it's kind of more uniformly relayed to all the leadership councils. That being said, as Deborah said, I think what that means is pulling very clearly the kind of summary at the start of each of the minutes, but consolidating them into a format that's easy to get out and gives people bite-sized things that also they can link to if they want to. Anyway, so I appreciate that coming up. It has come up at the Leadership Council before, and it will be a part, I think, of what our focus is when we look at the comprehensive communication plan strategies that will come at a future board meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I would advise, as you consider that, let's avoid redundancy, because there's really just so much that we can do, and we are doing a lot at this point. Dummerston Leadership Council, I want to mention a couple of items. One, on Saturday, October 4, there was a ribbon cutting for a walking trail, and I'm going to call it a community walking trail. It represents work that was initiated by this Leadership Council in 2019. And so it is representative of the follow-through that's possible with a Leadership Council. And so much has been done at Dummerston, from the 2 pavilions to the various climbing apparatus, to the playing fields, to the outdoor staging areas and meeting areas, and I keep on looking at Julianne even right now. And so Dummerston also is quite skilled at some significant fundraising. And so I want to commend that. What is particularly nice about the walking trail, it goes in an infinity circle and all sorts of various loops. And it is gravel, and it is on a level playing field. And that segues into yet another announcement from Dummerston, and that is a school-based theme for this year of disability justice. And from my perspective, the walking trail supports that theme. It is very difficult to navigate at times beautiful grassy fields that dip all of a sudden where you don't see that dip, or walking trails through the woods. And this trail is really quite welcome. So thank you. That's my report back from Dummerston. Anybody else for Leadership Council updates? Okay, moving on. board subcommittee updates and supervisory union updates. So starting with board subcommittee updates. We heard from PPE just now in terms of the meeting coming up on Thursday. Anybody else?
That was the Communications Council.
I am so sorry. Well, yes, there was a bounce back
The
between,
PPE is next Wednesday.
yes, next Wednesday. Oh, what time?
5 o'clock, I believe, on the 22nd,
On the 22nd. And do you know where you're meeting?
remotely.
You're meeting remotely, and it's a warned meeting?
It is, and I'm not sure that the warning has gone live, but yes, it's a warning meeting.
Okay, I'm thinking about this for the student reps who are actively taking notes right now about that meeting.
We'll be in touch, for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Anything else regarding board subcommittee updates? Okay, moving on. Supervisory union updates, anything?
Yeah.
Okay,
We met last Wednesday, we toured the new Canal Street School. Cannot recommend enough. It will fill you with joy to go there, even if it isn't full of tiny children. And we met the amazing Harold Wright, who practically owns the place. But I imagine it will be kept in really good condition. And I'd like to issue a big thank you to Mark and to Mary Kaufman and to the whole team for getting this up and running, because this is great for our district, great for our community, and great for the kids. We also saw a presentation, the WSESU Initiatives Update, which is on graduation rates, wraparound services, and multilingual learners. The slides should be up on the website. If they're not now, they will be soon. And again, with a thanks to Tate and the special ed and English language learning and the teams who participated. Thank you for helping. We approved a contract with the V.S.A. for the superintendent evaluation. For this year, you will be receiving an email from the V.S.A. With a link to your portion of the evaluation. We also had a first reading of the superintendent evaluation and contract negotiation policy. And before I close, I would feel really remiss if on behalf of the WSESU board, and I assume the WSESD board, we don't congratulate Linda Alvarez for winning the Vermont Teacher of the Year. Tell you what, next time we have a meeting in Cusick, stick your head in her room. You can feel the excitement and you can feel the learning. And there, again, doesn't even have to be kids there. So, recommend highly. Congratulations, Linda. And congratulations to everybody who makes it possible in this district for teachers to be the best teachers they can be.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, all right. Update on legislative issues?
There's been a lot that has gone with the release of BCTV map,
BCTV being, so that we stay away from acronyms. Board of,
Cooperating Educational Services.
say it one more time, Tim?
Boards of Cooperating Educational Services.
and that was, I think, 5 districts.
Yeah. We should say that I sent you a lot of information. I thought I was sending you a short PowerPoint on the BOSIS presentation. It was an incredibly cogent, well thought out presentation. They made a great case for BOSIS as being an alternative to mapping according to CTE or district. And another novel twist to that is they made another recommendation called BIMS, B-I-M-S, which is BOSIS plus intentional merger solution. And what that would be is districts they avoided the word voluntarily, but intentionally coming together to form their larger district, rather than it being imposed by the task force, by the legislature, along with the BOCES map.
There's
So,
a- sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I didn't realize you were.
No.
They also were discussing the differences between the SUs and the SDs and how a lot of people are leaning toward the SUs, so that is a consideration.
Okay, SU being
The
supervisory
supervisory union
versus
versus the
SD
school
meaning
district.
supervisory district.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the BOCES administrative functions are worth noting. They would include not merely budgetary, a common budget process, but professional development, hiring, contracts, well, I said professional development. Oh, and special education, of course. So the BOCES would be expanded to much more than we know, than we're using BOCES now for special education.
Matt?
Jocelyn, did you get a sense as to why folks were indicating a preference for the supervisory unions versus the districts?
I believe the reason most people were talking about that was still to have more local control over their systems and stuff. The school districts and everything.
Okay, great. Anything else?
It's day after tomorrow, on the 16th. There's the task force is having a public meeting at Leland and Gray. We finally set a time at 6 o'clock. So it would be great if you can attend in person or by Zoom. Oh, and also the task force asked to fill out a survey, and I sent that to everybody. I hope everybody has gotten it. And by the end of the month, they're asking for the public to finish filling out the survey. Basically asking your thoughts on Act 73, how much you know about it, what your feelings are about it.
Okay, and this is coming from,
This is coming from not the task force, from the Committee on the Future of Public Education.
okay.
And speaking of that, there's two other committees that are meeting now pretty actively. The Committee on the Future of Public Education and the Vermont, the Educational Committee. The Agency of Education, yeah. No, not AOE, but the
Are you
state,
The State Commission,
the Board of Education.
the State Board of Ed.
Thank you. Somebody.
Okay, and can you resend that survey, please, just to make sure it's front and center in our mailboxes?
Yeah,
Okay, and we're talking about a survey from the, I'm sorry to be dense.
Commission on the Future of Public Education.
Okay, which is different from the survey that we just got from the V.S.A.
Right.
Because we did get one from the V.S.A. Okay. Ruby?
I saw that survey that was forwarded from the Committee on the Future of whatever it is, that committee. And it took me a little while. I wanted to understand who was sending it and how to direct people to it in a way that had more meat on its bones than what I got, which was just here's a link to this survey. So I feel like have that information, and I would like to, and I'd like this board to send to kind of put broadcast and encourage people in our community, both educators in our community, caregivers and parents, students, to participate in this survey. But I haven't done that yet because, it's we haven't discussed that in the way that we are now. So I guess I don't know that it's something that needs to be moved, but I would, you know, I would hope that there's no objections to getting the word out about this survey. It's not our survey, it's really just passing along information, but and I think that we have until about the end of the month, roughly. So unless there's any objections, that's what I'm gonna be doing is putting out social media, kind of prompts and an email to Mark to try to get the word out about the survey.
Any possibility about a short press release to local newspapers?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that would then go through, to get that going through Moharch.
Yeah,
If you
so-
send her that information, so get into the comments, the record.
So we do have a communications council meeting on Thursday, and what we can do is have that be an item that we consider, and once we have formulated that press release, it would go to Mo, and Mo can help us format it and then get it out.
Okay, so does that, do I see any concerns from board members who want to further discuss that? I see shakes of the head, which means it's yes, it's a go-ahead to the communications council to get that going. That would be great, thank you. I'm just gonna say this is already the 14th. The end of the month is coming up really quickly. All right. Anything else? Having to do with legislative issues. Okay. All right, the next item, board goals.
Okay, now we meet.
Jessica? Mm-hmm.
So the board goals task force met this morning, and we were just going over some of the targeted deadlines that we set for ourselves and planning some more around the certain action items. So today I sent out to the board a list of trainings around DQS and EQS, which are the district quality standards and the educational quality standards. So take a look at that.
Does that require discussion or follow-up at a subsequent board meeting?
I think we could check in about it at part of our goal, I think by March, maybe earlier. I have to look when we set that target date. Everyone should know and understand what the DQS and EQS are and have that, I forget the exact date. I can find it in a moment, but we don't have anything laid out as far as that. I think there's more work to come. So that is kind of the first step, is getting everyone on board and knowing what those are and what our responsibilities are as far as practicing those go. And then the next step is kind of action steps, and those will come through the board goals task force, I believe.
Okay, there was a recent board meeting when you had presented a series of dates that may have been a little bit different from the original email that we received on goal summaries. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, vaguely.
Okay.
So I have a Excel document that we've been using as a working document to keep track of all of the dates.
Okay,
And so we met today and we are working towards certain things that are coming up due at the end of this month, so in a couple of weeks. Our plan was to have listening sessions, and really that first 10/31 deadline was to kind of have those planning in motion. And so that is in motion. The task force has kind of figured out the structure of what we're looking for in these listening sessions, and now we're sending it to the communications council to kind of build a strategy around how to get people to the listening sessions that we do.
and that's under the communications and community engagement
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, that's part of that goal.
okay. Quick question, have these dates gone out to the entire board?
They are, the only date that we changed, which I can send a formal update, was to, we pushed one of them out to January, so under the DQS, EQS, one of the action items was to invite administrators to the task force to provide insights into strengths and challenges into the DQS and EQS, and we pushed that out mostly because we didn't even have a rubric yet from the state when we created the original target date, which I don't recall what it is right now, but, so that one got pushed out.
I see December 1.
Yeah, so it got pushed out from there to mid-January.
Okay. And what you sent us today,
that is a list of training resources to bring people up to speed on DQS and EQS. So it has the resource that Bryn had shared, along with all of the laws, and now the rubric is also on there that came out recently. And then there's some more in-depth resources that are available as well. And we can publish this on the website, I believe that then.
okay, it's a lot of
It's
information.
a lot of
It is
information,
a
yeah.
lot, it's a lot of training.
It is, and I don't, go ahead.
So I'm wondering if it can be narrowed down a bit in the future. For individuals with limited time, I don't know what all of these links will amount to in terms of hours. So it would be helpful if we could have some kind of guidance about this. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does, okay, all
And
right.
I think there's definitely, there's really in-depth trainings, and then there's reading that you can do on your own. There's kind of a little bit of whatever flavor folks are looking for in this document, but I can kind of narrow it down in a different way as far as time commitment and what you glean from the
Okay.
training.
Okay, thank you, all right. Okay. And then there was some discussion, I believe, about hazing, harassment, and bullying. And I'm wondering, do you have a sense of when you'd like to see data from administration having to do with detailed summaries by site? We've talked about that in the past, I believe.
It has come up, and I think I believe we requested it from administration,
We
if
have,
I'm remembering
yes.
correctly. But we don't have like a deadline on it, I don't believe.
Okay, all right. So at some point, we'll push for that.
Update that we can support us with that.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, I think that would be the next step. Tim?
Specifically, you're talking about incident reports?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we've been asking for that. Yeah, she said.
Okay, it has recently come up, yes, that we have, I think Matt Chibley had made that recommendation at a board meeting, that it would be useful and it would be handled in the same way going into executive session, to share that information so we can see it site by site with detail. Okay, anything else? Thank you so much for staying on track with this information. This is really pushing us along. Mark?
Just related to the conversation around HHB, we had a full admin meeting on Friday, so I brought it up with the group. And the preference was sooner than later. So I think I was asked to maybe propose a date. So the suggestion is November 4th.
I'm sorry,
November 4th?
did you say November 4th?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I heard the right month. Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, no, yes, that is wonderful, thank you very much. That's great, November 4. Okay, good. All right, anything else coming from the committee? Thank you. All right, and so this is, we're up to letter E, which, yes.
There's a hand online.
Oh, I see, thank you. Hannah Parker,
You're gonna find him.
there she is.
I know, this-
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I just wanted, sorry, I'm at parent conferences tonight. I just want to make sure that you remember BUHS has leadership council that night. So I will be late to that meeting. And so if BUHS is part of that conversation, just putting that out there.
Okay, right, thank you.
I imagine it would be an executive session at the end of the meeting, or?
Perfect. Okay, perfect, good. And do we have a presentation that night on November 4th?
I don't believe so.
No, it's the first, it's the
Perfect.
board matters, it's the
Good.
first meeting.
Okay, that's great. All right, that gives us wiggle room for that, because that will be an extended executive session. And so now we are moving on to an update on, again, hazing, harassment, and bullying. Coming from the agency, or rather concerning the Agency on Education's Council on HHB. And I've invited Mary Gannon, whom we know, and I'm not going to cite her many credentials, and I know that Mary has been attending those meetings. So I asked Mary if she would join us this evening to give us an update on what's going on with the AOE. So hi, Mary.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I had all great intentions to be there in person, but I'm caring for my 90-year-old dad right now. So he says hello also. And he supports everything you're all trying to do. But it was hard for me to leave the house tonight. So I'm going to go to my notes first here just to make sure I keep myself on time. So again, appreciating the time with you all. I know that there is, as we all know, a lot that is happening in education right now, certainly at the national level and certainly in Vermont. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. It's pivotal in a lot of ways and complicated. And of course, for all of us, our hope is that we kind of get to the other side of all of this in a much better place. So I'm happy to come and talk a little bit about, I just want to set the context a little bit as I talk a little bit about HHB. Appreciating also that this board, and made the issues of hazing, harassment, and bullying a priority in its scope of work for the district. And so that's not true for a lot of boards across the state in terms of a direct a priority where they're holding themselves accountable. So I just want to also name that this board is willing to do that, as well as the administration. And a couple disclaimers. First of all, I am not an expert on this body of work, hazing, harassment, bullying, by any means. I certainly see it in my work as somebody who does a lot of educational equity and strategizing with school districts and with leadership. I've certainly seen how it impacts our schools, how I feel strongly that it impacts academic progress. And I think the data shows that also. And, when we get right down to it, it's impacting student safety, their sense of belonging and relationships. But I want to be clear that I'm coming at it from my work in this district as well, around how do we really think about how to be proactive and how we create school culture and climate in a way that can be more preventative, so that we're not getting to this other side of always having to figure out what incident reporting looks like, et cetera. So as I say that, I want to also invite all of us who are on this call tonight, community members, administration, board members, as learners in this effort. I was on some more calls today than I would like to account for with folks across the state around these particular issues. And I think everyone is pausing a little bit to try and understand why we're seeing such an increase in the incidences of unsafe and unwelcoming schools. And it feels to me like it's a moment for us to do an inventory around what are some of the practices that we have been using over the years and what's not working, and what are some other ways that we can be thinking about that. So I'll talk further about that as I move through what I wanted to share with you tonight. So a couple things also, I just want to say, like, we are in a very complicated time, and I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say that I also wear the hat of the vice president of our local Windham County NAACP branch, which I take that role very seriously. And I also work in the Education Justice Committee. And right now, our organization, our branch, has two very serious cases that we are navigating with the Human Rights Commission around HHB, focused unfortunately specifically on racial harassment and discrimination, not in your district, further north in the Windham district, in our sort of district that we are responsible for. So this is something that that's my advocacy volunteer work. So it's something I think about a lot in all the different roles that I play. So I want to do a quick little, Deborah asked me, I think I have 10 minutes. So I want to do a quick little recap for those of you who might be even new to how do we get to an advisory council in the state of Vermont. And the advisory council is the Hazing, Harassment, and Bullying Advisory Council, which, if you look at the history of it, which I'm interested in these things, some of you may not be, but the birth of the advisory council was in 2012 after statute, was based on statute coming out of that legislative session. What's interesting is that prior to that, and some of you may know this, that there was a report, two reports, racial harassment in Vermont public schools. One was in 1999, another was in 2010. So the Human Rights Commission, the Civil Rights Commission decided that they would do sort of a look at it again in 10 years, and that was in 2010. Out of that report was a conversation at the legislative level about how can we take this more seriously and begin to bring in some stakeholders, but also thought leaders around this. So the HHB Advisory Council has been around for a long time. Through the years, people came and went. Through COVID, my understanding is that the council sort of went underground a little bit, just for all the reasons that we know education was struggling with a lot of different issues, and then was sort of forgotten about for a bit of time, and then came back when Secretary Saunders came back in and decided to revive that, which would be, I guess in 2024, 2025. So I say that because I think it's really important for people to understand that this is an advisory council that has been active and very prominent in state statute for a long time. And on the one hand, we could say, unfortunate because we're still dealing with a lot of these different issues and they take different forms over the years. But also that there's an opportunity here to really think about what does a model policy look like. The other thing I just want to say quickly is that there has been some critique of the current makeup of the advisory council. I'm appreciating that this board, after hearing from a community member, Curtis Reed, who is the executive director for the Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity, spoke directly to the lack of various representation on that advisory council. And this board took the lead on writing a letter to the Agency of Education. My understanding is that there was not a direct response, but to really make sure that what's important about this advisory council is that it is representing the diverse representation of students who attend our schools across the state. And so we continue to work on making sure that there's folks who represent the disability rights community, who come from districts where could be language differences, racial and cultural differences. And and we're appreciating that this district, this board was out front on that. So a couple things so you should know, that's what's happening right now in terms of the council. Number one, if you're interested in learning a little bit more and trying to find the council online, which is not always easy. You can go to the Agency of Education, look up state boards and councils on the left-hand side of the website, and then you'll find the HHB Advisory Council, which will tell you the meetings, give you the past minutes and agendas. And what I'm here tonight to say is the more public presence and input we have, the better this model policy will be, but I think the better we will be as an education community around how we're really thinking about prevention. Because one of my concerns that I'll talk about more in a moment is the policy, as most policies are set up, are often to address things after the fact. And what we really need is support around prevention. And I know that this district has some of their own best practices, as many other districts do, to think about how to improve prevention. And that seems to be something at this point that it feels to me that the AOE is not been able to offer support on. And again, I just want to be super clear. I am not an employee of the AOE. When I go to those meetings, I'm a public member. But as many of you know, it's near and dear to my heart. And I come to that conversation wearing different hats. So one thing that we know for sure is that unwelcoming and unsafe school culture is an epidemic across the state. We could talk about it on the national level, but we're in Vermont and we should really focus on that. And it's an issue coupled with a lot of the other things that we know are happening in education around district reorganizing, lack of federal funding, et cetera. As I said before, we really want to engage school districts to think about prevention and to think about more about what is the focus prior to something, putting more focus on what's happening before an incident has happened. And we also know there's a great concern about the bandwidth for initiatives, funding, asking teachers, administrators to think about other ways to be addressing this. Something that I want to share with you tonight that some of you may know and some of you may not know because it's Tuesday, but after this long weekend, I was looking at more of the news that happened over the weekend. There's been more gutting of the federal Department of Education. The trickle down to what I just learned today from legislative members of House Ed and Senate Ed is that the trickle down to our agency of education is going to be substantial. So one of the numbers I was given tonight was, before I got on this call, is that we can expect anywhere from 20 to 30% cuts at the state level at our agency of education. So just folks who are in the education agency, who are doing all of the work to try and support the people who are on the ground. I think we'll get more information about that, but I've heard that from a little bit more of an insider who said to me tonight that they want to be sure that we start talking about that statewide, because what we can assume is that the efforts that and the funding that we've had to support prevention around HHB and other school culture and climate issues is going to be very much impacted. And that means that implementation of the revised policy that will come out in January after this advisory council finishes their work, we can probably assume that support will be limited from the agency. Now, some of you may say, well, we've been doing it on a shoestring already. And some of you may say we've been sort of, pivoting and doing this on our own. And what I thought about that I wanted to share with you tonight a little bit is I think what will be most important is that districts are really thinking about what can we be doing in our own district with our particular demographic, with our particular challenges that we have, whether it's a rural district or not, et cetera, to address those issues of school culture. Because one of the things that I've been concerned about as I listen to the redistricting conversations that are happening is what will that look like in terms of HHB on schools as we look at the redistricting that will be happening. So the sense of belonging for kids, the ways that kids feel welcomed into a community, if we start to go through that redistricting process, whatever that's going to look like, there is a concern that we may see an increase and that we may be dealing with different communities whom we haven't dealt with before around these issues. So I don't want to, there is good news. But I wanted to say that to you because I think it's important that as much as the advisory council is meeting, we're meeting, I don't know, I think it's not even every month, but they have a meeting schedule. And it's an hour, is that there's a lot of work to do around that policy, but there will be a lot of work for all of us to do as we think more about prevention and what are some of the practices that we have been using to address that some more. The other thing that I'll share with you quickly is that what I also think, actually, I'm going to move to strategies a little bit and best practices. So that's a little bit of the picture of what's happening at the state level. Like I said, I go to these meetings, I take notes, I try to report back to the districts where I'm working. And my call to folks is if you can get on a meeting on 3:30 on a Monday when they're scheduled, to have educators and people who are on the ground is really, really important. Those voices are definitely missing there. When I think about what are some of the strategies and best practices that I know this district has been talking about and wrestling with and implementing in all different kinds of ways. One of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was data, and I heard that talked about earlier. Oftentimes what happens around the collection of data around hazing, harassment, and bullying, and this is in my experience, is that we're only getting the information about reported incidents. And a lot of times I hear that from administrators. They're saying we can't really understand what the landscape looks like because we're not getting enough information. So I don't want to take up a lot more time tonight. We could talk about this more, but I think, there are ways that reporting and getting information, even if it doesn't rise to the level of an actual incident that needs to go through a process, my feeling is that any information or data that we can get from students and from staff are really important. And I think they're going to be even more critical as we move forward. And the reason why I say that is I think what happens is around HHB is, I know for me, when I first was introduced to this idea, I would go right to discipline. Like, well, how are we going to discipline or repair or manage the harm that has happened? But if I think about it in more of a proactive, preventative way, I think that data can also help us understand, like, what is the culture at our schools? Like, what does it feel like for kids? What does it feel like for staff? Even again, if it doesn't rise to the level of something that's reportable or necessarily impacting somebody in a protected category, is there data we can be getting from just hearing what is happening for kids if they're feeling teased, for example, which may not rise to the level of a reportable incident, but it does give us information about how it feels to be in a school. And I think that probably a lot of you understand what I'm saying. So it may not be in the numbers, like for example, in Panorama, you're getting maybe the numbers, students are talking about their experiences. And I think the anecdotal, like all multiple forms of gathering data, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is really important. And there's lots of different ways that schools are doing that. I know this district has a way that they're doing that. But I think it gives us a lot more information than just feeling like we have to report it and then consider like whether it goes to illegal, goes to litigation or something. But it gives us more information. The last thing I'll say is when I think about some like potential next steps and things that I'm offering in my observations in my work, is number one, I said this earlier, if we could all invite ourselves or invite each other to be learners in this body of work around school culture, I think it would ease off some of the pressure that I know a lot of people, including myself, feel around such an acute responsibility, to the point where the culture around talking about this, like in our professional culture, the collegial culture starts to feel more shaming and blaming versus, what am I struggling with? What are we struggling with? And how can we be in conversation? Now, I know that might be a big ask because my feeling is that a lot of our agencies are focusing so much more on the litigation and the legal part of this. And I want to invite all of us to, because again, I think we're going to have to be thinking about different strategies. I think it's really important for us to think about how do we build collegial community in our schools and in the district around how we talk about this with each other so that there is support, so that when someone says something, when someone sees something, they actually say something, that people are not going to feel reprimanded just because something happened in a classroom and it gets reported. I could give you a lot of examples around strategies, and I'm sure Mark and his team have talked about this, but it seems to me like we've got to figure out some more ways of building our own culture as professionals in this field so that we are supporting each other. The landscape of it is changing every day, and you all know this better than I do because of social media and the way that parents are engaging with us. And so we really need each other, I think, so that we can sustain our attention to it because it's not going to go away. But how do we build out some ways of thinking about this, talking about this, and looking at like what's working? Because I know there's things that are working in this district and what else people need support with. So I have two announcements and then I'm going to stop. One is, if you are interested in trying to get, I heard Tim and Jocelyn talking earlier about all of the different task forces that are happening, and it's a lot. It's sometimes confusing to me. I wanted to say to you all that I really feel like HHB is directly connected to the school redistricting. So I know that small schools in the Northeast Kingdom right now, for example, are really worried about what's going to happen to the kids if they have to close their schools. And maybe some of you are worrying about that in this district. So the places where you can voice your opinion and try and engage a little bit more is certainly, one is on the AOE website. So the Commission on the Future of Public Education has a survey link. I think even Ruby was talking about it and other folks might have been. That is a place where you can share your concerns and voices and even attend meetings if you can, which is tough. The other I want to be clear about is the school redistricting district. I never get the acronym right. I'm looking at it. School Redistricting Task Force is not on the AOE website. It's on the Agency of Administration website, which is very confusing. So people have been emailing and texting me saying, I can't find it. That's because it's not on the AOE website. I don't know why. So if you're looking to get involved more with the surveys and other engagement with the task force on the redistricting, you need to go to the Agency Administration. Again, look at the councils and advisories, and that will be listed there. There are two events that are happening that I think would be really helpful if the public and if administrators and folks want to be more involved in this conversation. One is it tomorrow night? Education Justice Coalition. I could send this to someone and they can get it in the notes, or I could try and put it up. I don't know how to share the information with you, but there's a really important event happening with the Education Justice Coalition. I think it's tomorrow night that gives people, no, I apologize. It's Thursday. It's also at 5:00, not a great time. That's giving parents and students an opportunity to come forward and talk about their own stories. So that's been another way that the Education Justice Coalition is collecting data. The last one that I really want to invite administrators to, come up to Randolph, Vermont on Saturday, November 15th. I'm moderating a panel with some brilliant education folks. One is one of Mark's colleagues, Wilmer Chavarria, who's in Winooski, superintendent, and some other really brilliant educators to talk about the specifics around HHB and what are some of the struggles. So it's going to be a 90-minute panel Q&A discussion. That's at Vermont State University in Randolph, November 15th at 2:00. You all can reach out to me. Come on up. We can get some good coffee and spend some time talking about this together. So I'll stop there, Deborah. I'm sorry, I went over my time.
No, that's fine. It's a lot of pertinent information. Thank you, Mary. And any questions from the board? Brian Ringer.
Yeah, thank you. So we don't have any information that the membership of the board has changed at all, the council on HHB. Our request was that.
Yes, okay. Mary, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Right.
So Brian, thank you for that. What I can tell you is since you sent that letter, there has been no change in the representation. There is a student rep on that advisory council. There is a rep, somebody who's representing Outright Vermont. But then it's, by statute, if you look at the statute, it specifically talks about the representatives they want, but they don't have a diverse representation in terms of our student demographic. And that has not changed.
And Deborah, we have not received anything else from them.
If I receive something, believe me, I will send it out immediately. Not a jot, nothing. I'm not on their email list. Nothing. No, I'm not. And I'll take other things personally, but not that. Yes, nothing. Mary, I have a question about the model policy that you mentioned coming out in January from the AOE, and this is on HHB.
Correct. So that is their scope of work. Their scope of work right now is specifically to look at the policy that was written back in, I think the last revision on it was 2019. And so their work now is to look at that and do revisions. And so many of us, including the executive director of the Human Rights Commission, Big Hartman, who's a very helpful in terms of thinking about how do we talk about this policy in terms of repair and to the harm versus just going to a litigious option. And so they're also a member of the advisory council. So that's the work that's happening on that right now. And there'll be a draft that will go out. And I will let you know, Deborah, when the draft is available.
Okay, that would be great, because I'm sure we'll look at that in policy and do a compare and contrast to what we've got right now. Any other questions? I think that we will be inviting you back in the future, Mary, as we push through some of these issues from our own initiative. Ruby, you have your hand up.
Mary, thanks for that update. In the same way that when we talked about our student reps and the work that they're doing to focus on kind of school culture issues in our kind of in transition points in the school, I would encourage you, if you have the time, to begin participating in our performance in, what was it called?
Programming equity.
Program and performance equity. We have a committee that's focusing on, that will be, we will be the group that is kind of honing in on the board goal that's around prevention of HHP in the district. So we've started that conversation in a pretty broad way, and we're starting to kind of articulate and organize what is the question, what are we looking at, how are we talking about it. So I anticipate at the upcoming meeting on the 22nd, which is Wednesday, I think that's Wednesday, at 5 o'clock is when we're meeting. And if you're able to participate, that's wonderful. It is remote. It's entirely remote.
Okay, that's great. Great, Ruby. I'll make note of that. One last thing that I'll say is I heard, it sounds like maybe Mark mentioned this, the next board meeting, there would be some information shared about like things that are happening at various schools. And so again, I just want to really support the conversation for all of you as you start to look at what is happening across the district. That, I don't want to say this, this is one of my worries, is that we are getting a lot of pressure from this is me speaking now, so you all know, I'm pretty honest with you all. I feel like we're getting a lot of pressure from the Vs, from the agencies, to follow along with certain kinds of compliance around certain things, and advanced compliance around certain kinds of issues that we could also connect directly to HHB. So, I think we want to, as we're having this conversation about like what is happening in the different schools and like what is happening district wide, is to keep pulling a through line and connecting the dots to all of that. Our kids are so tuned in. So if they're hearing, things that are happening in the state around terminations of various people, or they're hearing about certain incidents, or even nationwide, you know, and that energy or what they're bringing, you all know this better than I do, is coming into school, particularly around when we start hearing ideas of like how there's a assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then connecting that to how some of that does show up in HHB reporting or incidences. I just think it's important for us to not compartmentalize this and to recognize, as I said earlier, that there's a lot that is happening that can just give you information. But just because somebody is claiming that a kid or and I know these things have to get investigated just to be sure, but sometimes when we see more incidents of teasing or kids feeling excluded, that gives us information about what might be happening in the school. And so I just, again, want us to think about these things proactively and not always reactively. And I hope that's helpful, and I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
That makes a great deal of sense, Mary. Thank you. And again, we will call on you to hear your comments in the future as we go through this process. Thank you very much, Mary, for being with us this evening. Did we just lose you completely? Perhaps. Oh, you're there.
Oh, no, I'm still here.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Mary. All right, enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, we are, I just want to say I am very grateful that HHB has risen to the surface in this way from so many different directions. As Mary pointed out, from the redistricting, from what's going on statewide, from our own board goals task force, and then the various committees that exist. We are really taking this up, and the meeting at which we will discuss this in detail is not the next one, but rather the meeting on Tuesday, November 4. And that will have to be in executive session as we disaggregate the information and have a real in-depth conversation back and forth. Board administrators looking at what's going on in our entire district. Okay, I propose at this point that we take a 10-minute stretch break and come back. It is 7:15. We're going to come back at 7:25, if not a little sooner than that. Okay? All right. Thank you. We're back to business.
I'm sure we'll be chatting.
Yes.
All right, we're back to business. And I put down as letter F under board matters, C7, board relations with administrators, and C8, board relations with personnel. Let me start by saying that we have begun discussing both of these policies at the last policy committee meeting. And there are other policies that we're trying to get to all at the same time, covering a lot of ground within a 2-hour period. Regarding C8, one of the highlights of C8 that I want to present, without going into the weeds about it, under relations with other school staff, we immediately see the shall nots, the shall nots. It feels very biblical. Number 1 and number 3, and we want to restate issues in a positive way, not a litany of shall not. In addition, it really struck us as outrageous or outmoded language. Number 2, under relations with other school staff, the use school board members will respect and communicate, and then this is the language that proved odd, the proper chain of command. First of all, command is not the right word. It should be communication, chain of communication. And proper makes me think of what's improper, but just really tweaking that language so it makes more sense. So I wanted to open this up for just some observations about this, because the two policies go hand in hand, it seems to me. And even as we consider these two policies to update them, these are the policies that exist. And therefore, as written right now, these are the policies that we must follow. Board and administration and school personnel. And under C7, under relations with administrators, the final bullet, the need to maintain a distinction between the administrative role of the administrators and the policy-making role of the board. All right, Matt, show.
I appreciate the discussion, and I think looking at the policy is a worthwhile endeavor, in so much as that we don't lose sight of the wisdom that we gained last year when we did the common reading of the governance court, and really what is best practice and how boards and administration function together. I want to ensure that the board maintain our oversight and knowledge without overstepping into the day-to-day operations that we're entrusting Mark and administration to do. So I hope that we don't muddy the waters or lose the clarity that we found in that book.
Point well taken, thank you. Other comment? Tim?
Are there structural changes that you're talking about in the reporting, in the chain of communication?
We are still in the early stages of it, but in terms of the way it looks right now, no, I don't see any big changes in terms of chain of communication. The need, again, to ensure that, for example, worst case scenario, 10 board members are suddenly writing to a principal wanting information. That doesn't make sense. And it's certainly contrary to the policy, just as we wouldn't want 10 board members writing to our district's attorney. We would want it to funnel through one person, again, to prevent redundancy.
In reality, does that really ever happen?
It doesn't matter whether, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I should not
You
have.
have 10 board members writing to one administrator. It just seems really like an extraordinary situation.
Whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, I think it's probably to be avoided. Because if 1 can do it, then 10 can do it.
Well, the timing of this is really great because, as you know, one of the board's goals is to improve two-way communication with all stakeholders. Those stakeholders certainly include teachers who are also our constituents, principals, superintendent, public. So there shouldn't be a tension here. This policy, I would hope, would promote that collegiality and that dialogue, that narrative, that ongoing narrative about teaching. Certainly you establish parameters between the operational side, evaluations of teachers, and our role in establishing policy and creating policy. But collegiality is at the heart of it. And I think that an effective board, a healthy board, has that open, free kind of communication. And the administration and the board promotes it, doesn't restrict it.
I totally agree, and I do think that is the function of board meetings and committee meetings. And so it is something that is coming up in terms of discussion on these two policies. And that's why I'm bringing this forward. Okay. Other comments? And again, this is one of these discussions that will be ongoing, not to be the, beginning, middle, and end at this point. I don't even know that this is really a beginning, but it is a beginning to have this discussion in the open. Other comments? Ruby?
So I think this is just really a question. So when I looked at the links that are in the agenda, there's no black lining. So this is the first reading or not even first reading. It's the first consideration to prepare for possible revision. Maybe.
Yes. These, the links are for the policies as they exist online.
Okay.
These are not, we've already begun work on these policies, so there are edits in place, but very much in the background and very much on committee level at this point. So what you see to these links are the links as they exist right now online.
Okay.
The policies, again, that because they are on our website, these are the policies that we must adhere to at this point. So I think it's important with board relations that we be well versed in what's said here, and then in keeping with Matt Shelby's point, that we remember the hard work we did with governance board. Yes. Jim.
C7 asks for, from the superintendent, guidelines for relations between board members and administration. I don't think we've ever gotten that in written form.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time, please?
Doesn't C7 ask for an annual guidelines from the superintendent for relations between board members?
It says the superintendent will develop guidelines. So we had a discussion about that use of the word as well, because that didn't seem to make sense. It didn't make sense.
Use of what word?
Guidelines. Will develop guidelines. It implies that someplace there are a list of guidelines that exist.
No,
Here are the guidelines.
That would be developed.
I understand that, but I appreciate that. Will develop guidelines. Well, this has been on the books. We last adopted this in 2022. So we don't have a written set of guidelines. I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's a good point, and we certainly looked at the beginning of those words. So again, policy meetings, 2:00, the 2nd and the 4th.
The 22nd is the next one.
If that has to be, yeah. Is that right? 22nd?
Yes.
22nd, 2:00.
And if the policy meeting timing really is hard for me, and so if I want to, weigh in, I can always send an email to someone on the committee, probably to you,
Yes,
Deborah.
and I will forward it to about 10 people,
Right.
and we will sit down and we will all have a copy of your email and your comments.
And is there, because what it sounds like to me is that, this rose to the level of being a conversation at a board meeting, but all of that conversation that's happening at the policy, at the committee level, and the edits that are kind of brewing, I think that really it's at the point that those are brought forward that I think we can have meaningful
Right.
kind of conversation, even at the board level.
Yes, absolutely. And that will be the process of first reading, second reading. Right. Any questions? Okay. One thing that I would like to propose, and that is that Mo suggested this to me a while ago. She made me aware of pressing send, and that that right next to send, there's a little arrow that enables you to schedule when you send that email. It was like mind-blowing for me. So, and I use it, and I love it, because if I'm sending something, let's say, to, I don't know, let's just pick something dramatic, like an attorney, and I'm thinking about it late on a Friday night, and I send it at that point, by Tuesday or Wednesday, when I haven't received a reply, I realize what's happened. It just got buried. So I then have to forward it. So if I send it, schedule for delivery Monday morning at 8 a.m., I get a reply. So I know some of you are looking at me incredulously, like, whoa, Deborah. So I am going to suggest that we respect, from the board, I would like to respect the time of administrators and staff on weekends and on holidays, and not send emails at that time. Not to send it in real time, but rather to schedule send on the next working day. When we get emails, or when I get an email, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm not talking about the board, but I'm talking about from board to administrators and staff. I would like to respect their downtime. So many of us, when we get an email on a Saturday morning, or we see it and it's come in Friday night and it's now Saturday night, we're compelled to respond in real time, to get it out of the way, so we don't forget about that email. I would like not to put administrators in that position during their downtime. It's not an emergency. It can wait. Obviously, if there were to be an emergency, that email would come to me, it would come to Kim, it would go to Matt, it would go to Mark. But we are not dealing with emergencies on weekends and holidays. Ruby.
I think that this is great that we're thinking along these lines. I think that, I think what you're talking about is a specific type of approach to work. And each of us, we have 10 people on the board who all have different levels of awareness around technology, ability, our brains work in different ways. And I can say, and I know you all know this because I happen to be someone who works very late into the evening, and so I will press send at ungodly times. And that's, if I oftentimes it's so late that I just am on autopilot, and so if I press send, and I'm not gonna press schedule. I know where it is, I know how to do it, and I can tell you it's just not hardwired in my process. And so I think that as much as I appreciate this suggestion, it is a suggestion, and I think that another suggestion I have is that nothing that we as board members send is urgent to the level that administrators should shut off their email. And if there's an email from me on a Saturday, it should stay in the inbox. And if it gets lost, it gets lost. I mean, we work in an office setting, and that's just one of the dangers. I think that there was I can't remember who it is, but there's a CEO who has the tagline at the end of their email, kind of, if you are getting this at an odd hour, ignore it. Only respond when you're able. And that's what I think what we should be expecting of our administrators, of our staff, and of ourselves, frankly. If one of us if I email at 3 a.m, I do not expect you to email back at 3 a.m. It's just the way that my work.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I also am hardwired to press send, but I'm also love learning new things and practicing new habits. And I am really trying to practice schedule send. I really am. So I am offering this solely as a suggestion. So take it as you see fit. And I'm sorry, did I lose something?
Yeah, you're not here anymore.
I'm sorry. Wait 1 second. Okay, wait. So where am I doing wrong? I'm not connected for some reason. Oh, I'm not connected. Maybe this is one. I'm not neutral.
It's one in red.
Sorry, I'm having technical problems. And where am I be? In progress? Oh, sure, yeah. Oh.
There's a little group there.
You're right. I'm back. I'm back. Again, this is truly just a suggestion, and I think it's I appreciate everything that's been said about work ethic. I also am going to appreciate myself for a level of sensitivity in terms of how other people might perceive receiving an email where for them it is difficult not to respond in real time. So again, yes, I do see that send button and I am likely to still press it, but I also know about the schedule send and I love it. So I have been using it with greater regularity and that makes my fingers a little more practiced at not pressing send quite so quickly. Hannah Parker, I see your hand up.
Hi.
Hey.
So 2 things. One is I just want to, as a friendly piece of information I think you'll enjoy, you can now also schedule send text messages, which is mind-blowing. But I just wanted to reiterate, Deborah, that what you just said, we put in place at the high school a few years ago that we are not sending any emails after 5 p.m. unless they're urgent. And I email all night long and do delay sends all the time. I hear from staff repeatedly how much they appreciate that. And so if I had $1 for every time I check my email, I could retire at this point. We're always checking our emails. And I think the least amount of emails we can get in our off hours is really appreciated, not from administrators' point, but definitely from faculty and staff.
Thank you, Hannah, thank you. I am glad I brought this up this evening. And board members will take it under advisement, and we are all 10 individuals on this board. It is simply a suggestion. I'm going to move on to letter G, confirmation of the timing of Panorama student climate surveys, fall and spring. Comment about that?
Yeah,
Tim?
yeah, some of us were surprised when we saw that Panorama Student Climate Survey was going to be offered just once a year in the winter instead of twice a year in the fall and the spring. This has been a topic that we've discussed over the last couple of years. And it, to the point where last year on 9/22/24, there is a motion made, or I'll read it. RM moved that the RM moved that the WSESD board acknowledge the adjustments to the local assessment plan as outlined by Brent Tucker, including the decision to administer the student climate survey in the fall and the spring. Motion was seconded and passed unanimously. Now, a
Can
little
you say
history.
when that was again?
It was seconded and passed unanimously.
I understand. When did that,
When was it?
when?
September, let's see, 9/22/24. They're from the minutes of 9/22/24. So, a little thinking behind this motion is in order. Panorama is a major leader in student climate surveys. They do this, they're located in Cambridge, Mass, but the survey is distributed in all 50 states to thousands of schools, districts. And some time ago, when we were discussing this, I asked to invite somebody from Panorama. That didn't happen, so I called Panorama and I spoke to Colleen Edwards. Her thoughts, I won't read it.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
You made mention of a motion that took place and recorded in the minutes of 9/22/24
Right,
that was passed by the board,
right,
that Panorama should be administered 2 times annually.
right.
Okay, in the interest of timing, I'm going to say that motion rules. I don't think you need to defend the motion or the validity of Panorama being administered twice a year. I would suggest that the fact that this board approved the motion means that we are asking administration to administer this 2 times yearly.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Kim.
When we voted last fall, it was on the recommendation of admin. The previous year, we had voted admin only wanted to do it once, and we had voted we were only going to do it once.
Okay. So this latest vote on September 20, or the
Of
minutes
last year,
of
yes.
last year, September of 2024, was based on the recommendation of admin that
Yes.
we administer this
They wanted to do it twice.
twice. Okay. Okay, and we had a motion that supported that.
Correct.
Okay, has there been anything that reversed that motion since then?
No.
No, okay. Ruby,
I think that it may be helpful to hear from our administration around
yes,
this.
I'm, right,
I also recall in the conversation, there was considerable conversation around, is this an actionable thing? Is this something that the board would direct, or is our decisions around this the purview of that particular administrative office? So I think that that's at the crux of what we're talking about, but I definitely appreciate that this is coming up, because we had a little over a year ago, we had considerable conversation at the board level. And so having our board completely understand what the decisions are and what changes are in place is really important.
okay. And so, and yet, whether it's actionable by the board or not, we did act on it, and we did have a motion at board level. So, Tim, I know I interrupted you. Is it all right with you if I ask admin at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, administration, I guess the question is, a year ago, the recommendation was to do it twice. Where do we stand now?
Yeah, I didn't see that as a directive, personally, back then. There was, a couple of board members brought up, an issue with Panorama only being, delivered once a year, which was the, suggestion that we had been following from Chris Overstreet, who was hired to work with us on climate, which is fine. There was a disagreement. I think a committee was put in place last fall. That committee met at least 3 times, maybe more than that. But we met at the central office a couple of times. I know we met downtown at the hub another time. And in going through that process, I think our thinking was, okay, we'll do it 2 times. So it's not going to hurt anybody. And so that's what we did last year. We issued it twice. Frankly, didn't see enough return in the data to change any decision-making in terms of programming from the fall to the spring. The overwhelming feedback from teachers is to just do it once. It's a time-consuming process. To do it twice may not sound like it is, but it is. And in fact, we just did a survey at a professional development workshop with counselors and social workers. And there was like 4 options of what they could sign up for, and 0 people signed up to look at the Panorama survey. So my suggestion is we focus on things that Willow and Riley brought up to start the meeting around developing proactive, more proactive approaches to climate, very similar to what Mary Gannon was sharing. I think more energy on responding to the data and what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. That's where people want to do the work. That's where they want to focus their energy. Again, we did it twice last year. I don't think our team saw any great advantage of doing it twice. And when overwhelmingly teachers are asking us to just do it once, I think that should be respected. And again, the Panorama survey is a moment in time that gives valuable data, but it's not the end-all be-all data point. There's so many other ways to collect information from teachers, from students, from parents, frankly. So I would hope that we can just focus more on the proactive approaches and continue to monitor student climate with a once yearly survey that is taken by all students.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Willow, Sharma?
I'd say on a student side, having to do the survey twice a year does bring up difficulties on the student side. It's something that a lot of my peers are not excited about doing, whether or not it's a short test or a longer thing. It's a lot of people don't do it, a lot of people aren't excited about doing it and don't put in meaningful data. And I do think in the end we are just losing valuable time of instructional learning, which is more beneficial than twice a year, like ARC studies over time. It doesn't. Looking for the growth in or a change from Panorama results from fall to spring doesn't really come across if there's not meaningful data, period, from students.
I see a couple of hands online. Brian.
Just a thought, it seems like most of the data we'd like to see changes in, that we receive through Panorama are things that are not going to change in a short period of time. And so it may not be useful to be collecting that data multiple times in the same year, but rather once a year, and see what our actions produce over a longer stretch of time.
Just as a point of information, if the test is administered once per year, when is that test administered?
Yeah, it's currently in our local common assessment plan. November is the teacher perception survey. February, March is the student climate survey, and then around March conference time is the family climate survey.
Okay. So February, March is the student. Okay. I see hands up online. Hannah Parker.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Willow was saying, and also I just pulled up our data for the high school, and we're within 1 or 2 percentage points in each area from fall to spring. And so that data isn't helping us as much as doing it once a year and getting real data in the fall or whenever we decide to do it. But I also heard from staff and students last year that doing it twice felt like too much, and there wasn't as much buy-in to doing it.
Okay, thank you. Sam Thatcher, would you identify yourself and your town, please?
Hi, I'm Sam Thatcher. I am in Brattleboro, Vermont, and I'm also an educator in the district. And my question would be, if we're seeing that Panorama isn't necessarily effective or gathering meaningful data, should we be administering it, period? And are there more effective ways to be gathering data and making meaningful change? I also think about counter argument. If we administer something once a year, how are we monitoring progress? I mean, if we have benchmarks 3 times a year for our academic goals, why would our SEL goals not get that same amount of attention? As someone was just on here saying HHB was at risk, and I feel like this is tied to it. So it seems like there needs to be some sort of alternative so it doesn't fall by the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Bryn Tucker.
I just wanted to share a little bit about how my understanding, and maybe principals can chime in, about how the student climate survey results are being used. In one level is certainly by counselors and social workers, and at the district level and school level administrative to unpack those results. But I think an important way that it's also being used is in the summer middle school leadership retreat that's hosted. There are student leadership groups that come together with those data to really analyze it when there's time to do that and make an action plan for their school. And I know some teams are at various levels of that. And then that work that's mainly driven by students at a lot of sites is then something that's implemented throughout the next school year to then eventually see the data, if it had an impact or not. And Sam, I totally agree with you that I think we need multiple measures to be looking at climate, similar to what you were sharing in the beginning. And I know that that is part of one of the CIP goals, both at the district level, and I noticed that was also alluded to in the board goals, to really start to unpack what is best practice of getting some more information around that. The reality of the Panorama Climate Survey, while it's really helpful over time, challenges persist in some of the language for elementary students. It only starts at 3rd grade, and we've had participation challenges with the scheduling piece in the high school, I think, as you were talking to. So it's certainly been a data point over time, and there's been a lot of discussion of how we can get more direct and better and multiple sources of data around that, while also honoring the work that some of our student leaders are doing in setting goals and having some time to implement those goals.
Tim?
This is one of 3 of our district-wide goals to improve sense of belonging by 10% as measured by Panorama. That's one thing. Second, if we don't see substantial change from the fall and the spring, that in itself is a key finding. That's an important finding. Third, in the words of the Panorama expert herself, quote, something to keep in mind when only administering once a year is that there are many factors that could be in play for how the data changes over time, since there's a whole year between survey administrations. For example, there are school vacations, grade changes involved, where there might not be much of a factor otherwise. Though it is entirely up to the district, our general recommendation, and this is a major corporation with mathematicians, scientists, our major recommendation is to administer surveys twice a year, though some districts even administer it 3 times a year. The problem with doing it once a year is the second year that you've done, if you have a different sample size, not sample, you have a different sample. You've lost seniors that second year, and 5th graders have moved into the 6th to 12th grade survey. So you have new 5th graders doing it, and seniors have gone. So you have a different sample size, which affects reliability.
That's true for all of the
And
assessments.
this is why thousands of districts across the country, thousands, why the majority, the vast majority of people who did Panorama do it twice a year. As far as the time commitment, we know in the high school at least it takes less than 10 minutes to fill out a 16-item survey. 16 items takes less than 10 minutes. I can see the problems in doing it 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, but the data, especially for a CIP, to measure it validly, reliably, just has to be done twice a year for the 6th through 12th grade.
I think what I'm hearing as a board member is that there are different ways of measuring a sense of belonging, and we also just heard that students taking the the survey, sitting at a computer screen, it's done quickly and casually, and and then let's move on. So okay, I mean, I just heard that, and I think we've heard that in the past. You and I have heard that with students at the Student Advisory Committee who have said at times that it's even a joke, sitting at a screen. Yes, Tim?
Again, why do thousands of districts across the country use it and publish it?
Okay,
That's one thing. And students, we respect their opinion, but sometimes they just don't want to do things that are good for the district. This is a 10-minute obligation.
Okay, all right.
And the survey results, yeah, it depends on faculty really honoring the importance of it.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
I'd like to make a motion
Yes.
that the board empower the administration to administer any testing and assessment, or the panorama and testing and assessment as they see fit.
Is there a second? Okay, discussion. Ruby?
I don't think that that's a necessary action. I think that they are empowered, as is evidenced by they've made a decision to change and make a change. And that's it feels like that's part and parcel already in terms of what the curriculum office is already empowered to do. So from my opinion, I just don't think that that's where we should be putting our.
Okay. Tim?
In our legal obligation in the statute, the board is responsible for collecting data to make informed decisions. We can't abdicate that responsibility. That's our responsibility.
I don't think that the motion is advocating that responsibility. I think the motion is saying that for this particular year coming up, we entrust administration to administer the test according to the schedule that has been presented this evening. And the student portion of the test is being given midway in the year, not just early in the year. That's what I'm hearing as part of this motion. Any other comment on this motion? Bryn?
Something that we follow is policy F22, which is around student assessment. While that policy is worded a little bit in the academic chair, it's also talking about the superintendent, with the support of the Office of Curriculum and Assessment, will oversee the development and implementation of local comprehensive assessment system. So I'm reading that policy, the way that we have acted on that policy is that the superintendent and the Office of Curriculum and Assessment set the local comprehensive assessment system every year. We add and take away assessments that we do to give us the information about our school district every year. There are new assessments in our LCAS this year. There are other assessments that are out. It seems that this one assessment is a sticking piece, and I wonder if are we talking about every assessment that we decide to do or not do, or are we talking just about Panorama? Because that falls under, I think it's under consideration that really falls under F22.
I hear this motion as being in support of F22, saying that we support the decision of administration in terms of setting an assessment schedule. That's how I'm reading this motion. Jocelyn?
Liz has her hand up on.
I do realize that.
Okay.
I was calling on you just now.
Yeah, I just.
Okay, so anything else from board members right now? Liz Adams online. And then I want to wrap this discussion up.
I have a question, and my memory might not be correct, but I am wondering if any school saw significant differences. I think, if I remember correctly, Putney did see some significant changes between the two Panorama dates when the tests were given. That could be wrong, but if that is true, then what is happening at that school that could help other schools in the district? I guess, I remember the whole thing, the discussion about doing it once or twice a year or so.
Okay.
But
okay, thank you. I'd like to wrap up this discussion. So right now we have a motion. Are we ready to bring this motion to a vote? Because I'm not hearing that the motion is off the floor at this point. I hear opinions about the motion, but are we ready to bring the motion to a vote? I see nods going across the room. And so all those in favor of the Matt, would you read the motion again, please?
Yes. That the board support the administration's decision on Panorama survey delivery.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and the nays, can you raise your hands, please, so that we can just see them? Okay, we have 2 negative votes, and we have, I'm trying to think how many of us are here right now. 2. Colleen is a yes. Okay, so are we a full board this evening? Yes, okay. So it's 8-2. All right, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, in the interest of time, it is now 8:10. I would like to delay discussion of letter H until November 4th, please. Okay, we do have an executive session facing us this evening. Okay, so we are going to move on to the administrative report.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to start with just doing a recap of today's events in the school district. We held a full day in-service day on the campus, UHS campus. We started promptly at 8:30 this morning with an opening. I greeted all the teachers to the day, talked a bit about core values that we have established at the central office that I will be sharing in an email with the community probably likely later this week. And we had a visit from Secretary Saunders, which was really nice, along with about 5 other folks from who are representing the AOE. And Nancy Weiss was given the opportunity to introduce the Vermont Teacher of the Year for the 25-26 school year. And as Ann mentioned to start the meeting, happy to say that Linda Alvarez was present with her family, which was great. She had some former students come back to be a part of the event. And I think all of her colleagues really appreciated that fact that we have a teacher in our school system who was identified as the Teacher of the Year. So I thought it was a really great way to kick off the day of learning. I heard from numerous teachers throughout the day how excited they were that we were able to start the day like that in that way, with a recognition from our top leader, the secretary. So again, kudos and congratulations to Linda and her family. But that was a really great way to start the work. Moving on, we had a full day of workshops, rather a morning of workshops that were facilitated largely by teachers in our school district. Like, I don't know what the exact number was, but over 90% of the workshops were delivered by teacher leaders, coaches, administrators. So it's a really great example of distributed leadership and learning from one another. So that was certainly something to be celebrated and highlighted. And I can't speak, I can't give higher regards to the work that the Bryn Tucker and the curriculum office did to prepare for a day of learning today. I mean, it's just remarkable organizational skills to put something together like this and to communicate it fairly regularly throughout the school year to hundreds of employees. So I know she was likely fielding emails last night leading up to today. But I think it was a really great event and just wanted to highlight that work and Bryn's leadership along with Stacy and Jana. I think we're really lucky to have the folks that we have in the curriculum office focus on professional development and supporting teachers. So I wanted to start with that. And the second thing is referring to policy C7. I did bring an overview of administrator evaluation process that I actually developed 4 years ago. So I'll distribute this document. This is an updated document. Hart and I reviewed that throughout the summer, and this is the most up-to-date version of what we do have in place in terms of evaluation of administrators. So I will forward an email to Colleen Savage as well after this meeting so that she has this resource. But once those are facilitated around, I'll just walk us through the document. And there's probably enough for Keith, Julianne, and Bryn to have too. Okay, so first page is really an image portraying the cycle of evaluation and what that looks like with a time frame. The very back of the first page is another way to look at it, which is more of listed, but I'll focus on the front page. So every summer, I have meetings with all of our administrators, a one-to-one meeting, where we're reviewing, we review feedback and 360 surveys and feedback that has been captured. Those meetings lead to an evaluation for their file. And then as we start the new school year, I ask for new goals for the school year to be submitted. Generally, actually, tomorrow's the deadline, October 15th, no later than October 15th. I think I pretty much have everybody's goals right now, as of now, but try to get time to settle into the first month of the school year. Continue to get feedback at the schools around growth towards continuous improvement plans, and then finalize goals by October 15th. Throughout the school year, there's regular meetings, both individual and leadership meeting structures in place. Once a month, we have a full admin meeting from 8 to 4. Every other week, there's individual smaller group meetings focused on the secondary principals and directors, so Windham Regional, BAMS, and V.S.A. And then the prior weeks are set aside for elementary admin meetings with all of the elementary principals, along with special ed and curriculum administrators. So those are structured meetings that are in place throughout the school year. And then, of course, I meet with all administrators individually throughout the year in many different ways. Input is gathered throughout the year. Faculty meetings, staff meetings, the team structure that I just shared. I'll ask for a final reflection before the end of the school year, which I ask to be given, after a 360 survey is completed. So that's essentially how the cycle works. Every spring, in middle of May, 360 surveys go out, information is captured. I close the year with a meeting looking at data points, and then develop an evaluation. So that happens every year. Again, like I said, the back of that first page is another way to look at it. I've really spelled out some of the check-in opportunities from October through the heart of the school year, that October to April section. What is taken into account in terms of the actual evaluation?
Mark, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
And so here's a suggestion I want to make. It's a dense package, and it might be beneficial if we had a chance to read through it and then come to you with comments
Sure.
and questions. Does that make sense to the board? Tim?
We're talking about this meeting, the policy. The policy states, number 3,
I'm sorry, which policy
will share with
are
the
you
board.
talking? Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Which policy are you talking about?
C7.
Oh, C7, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, go
It
ahead.
says the superintendent will share the results of the discussions with the board. Not the process, but the results.
If I could just continue with my overview.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Ultimately, evaluation of administrators is my responsibility. The competencies of professional practice is what I use as a framework in providing this yearly evaluation. You can see it's really spelled out into 13 steps, very detailed. And then along with those competencies are a professional rating sheet that I ask all administrators to self-reflect on at the end of the year. And then that also helps guide our end of the year meeting. So that's the procedure that I put in place. I think it's very thorough. I'm proud of the work that we've done at the admin level, and we've stayed right to this with every single administrator on a predictable schedule each year. So that's what's in place. Those are the opportunities for feedback throughout the year. Again, like you suggested, Deborah, happy to take follow-up questions at another time if there's more time to review. In terms of individual goals of administrators, didn't necessarily feel appropriate to share, but what is on the website from our admin board retreat is each school's individual CIP plan. So if you look on the website, I'll just show you where to find that, because all plans are tied to school improvement. That's what I ask as a framework, that all goals that are developed by principals and administrators reflect the goals of the school and the goals of the supervisory union. So if, as a reference point, if you go to reports for boards, you'll see, and I asked Mo to add this just this morning, individual school and continuous improvement plans, 2025-26, indented from the board administrator retreat slides. We've captured all of the school plans right there. So that's very much on the forefront of my meetings with principals throughout the year, is balancing individual goals and how they're connected to school improvement and supervisory union improvement goals. So that's the overview.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Jocelyn.
I had a quick question. Mark, the administrator evaluation, is this for you to fill out for the administrator, like the principals, or is this what they fill out for the teachers?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually asked.
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, is it the administrator evaluation process rubric, is this filled out for the administrators, the principals, or is this filled out by the principals for the teachers, the staff?
It's a self evaluation that I ask principals to, or all administrators to undertake each spring.
Okay.
And then when we sit down to have our one-on-one final feedback meeting of the academic year, we review all of those competencies together.
Okay.
In more of a, I'll share my opinions regarding their self-assessment, and they share their why behind how that why, or how they evaluated themselves.
It's similar to what I do the work too. I wasn't sure what the title was alluding to.
Yeah, and then I provide a formal written evaluation that is based on that end of the year meeting and review of all that information.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Ruby?
I really appreciate a good form and thank you for sharing it. It's really informative, and so thank you for that. And I guess what I wonder about in terms of how this interfaces with that C7 policy, I feel like the board is looking to you as the superintendent for kind of a global view. I don't think this board has ever, at least my understanding wasn't, that we would be getting individual administrators kind of information. So that grain size is, I don't think we've ever been looking for, but I do think we trust that you have all of those things in hand and are seeing trends or themes that might bubble up. And so that's, to me, that's the thing that would be helpful for us to understand and to see the work that you are doing as the superintendent to support your administration and your administrative staff.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what I tried to describe in terms of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. So again, those are for your reference, and happy to take follow-up questions at the meeting.
All right, so I'm going to suggest that we, as a board, take a good look at this document and have a follow-up discussion about it. Matt?
I think it might behoove us to make sure it's on the agenda next time too. Now that we have an understanding of the process, to get that high-level overview. I concur with Tim that my interpretation of C7.3 is that Mark, you would share the results with us. You know, and so knowing that that's a little protracted, you know, we also haven't, I think, really been clear about the ask from administration from Mark. So we've got clarity now, and I'd like to see it.
Okay, all right. We will return to this on November 4. And I'm going to try and keep the agenda on November 4 as soon as possible. All right. Moving on.
I do have a retirement to announce. Tom Dotton, the current assistant principal at VAMS, will be retiring as of December 31st of this school year. So Keith has put together a cycle and a process for identifying the next assistant principal, which is underway. And I believe Kim Price is a representative on that group. So we'll be giving more updates as that process develops.
So is there a motion to accept this resignation with both regret and appreciation?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. Matt?
Having a current middle schooler, I would just like to attest to the strong work that Mr. Dotton has done over his many years, and personally having experienced his dedication, I appreciate it. So thank you, Tom.
Any other comments, discussion? So again, a vote with appreciation and regret, the resignation of Tom Dotton. It's a vote now. Oh, yes, aye. All those in favor, aye. All those in favor, that's a reluctant vote. It seemed to me. Okay. Any abstentions? Any negatives? All right. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay, and then lastly, I've asked Hannah to prepare just an update on the work the high school committee has been doing on class ranks. So. Is Hannah still available?
Hannah, are you still online?
Unmute. So Joe Gruda, who is the new head of our counseling department, which has been a little in limbo for the last months, has taken over as the lead role on that. And we are meeting next week with the committee to really dig into kind of the research and what we're looking at doing here, if anything different.
So then Hannah, can we expect an update on November 4?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tim?
I don't think the new school board members know what the issue is here.
Okay, and I'm going to say Matt, did you?
Oh, I can go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say very briefly that there was some controversy last year, probably late October, which is what I was going to say. Thank you, Tim. Late October, having to do with the fact that class rank is listed on the transcript of a graduating senior, and the pros and cons of that nationwide to have class ranking listed, and whether it enhances or impedes the admission evaluation of a graduating senior in terms of college. So that's what this is about. Ranking does exist on the transcript. We are evaluating it at this point. We did ask at the board level that it be evaluated at BUHS. And so there is a committee in place. Tim?
There are 4 very invested parents in this issue. They brought it before the board. I'm wondering, have they been notified? Have they been contacted at all over the year about what's happening with this?
They were. Yes, Hannah.
I was just going to say that it was one parent that brought it up last year, and that student has since graduated, and kind of what they were looking for in that moment obviously wasn't something we could do right away. So
there was another family involved as well, and that was also a graduating senior. Yeah. So those were the 2 families that brought this to the forefront.
Nevertheless, if I were those parents, I would appreciate courtesy notification about what the result of all their work has been.
Yep. And I had multiple conversations with them throughout the school year last year as well, including up till graduation.
Okay. So thank you, Hannah, and we will return to this on November 4th. Yes, Matt?
I just had a question for Hannah and administration. If we were seeking any outside perspectives, industry experts, in addition to reviewing the research as well.
I believe the plan is to reach out to some college admissions personnel to find out what they're seeing and what the trend is and what they would recommend from their institutions.
Great, excellent, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Administrative report, have we concluded that we have? There is no fiscal report this evening, and consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any negatives? All right, on to new business. Policy and Amendment Committee presents for a first reading. F5, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by law enforcement personnel or other non-school personnel. This is presented for a first reading. There will be a 10-day period before it will go for a second reading, which means it will not go for a second reading until November 4. Please take a look at this policy, and any questions, concerns, please send it to the policy committee. The 2 board members are Ann Beekman and Deborah Stanford. And so for now, it is at a first reading. All right. We are at the point of going into executive session. Is there a motion to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
Moved. Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Is there a motion to enter into executive session 1 V.S.A. 313A7, the academic records or suspension or discipline of students inviting in Mark Spino, Keith Lyman, and potentially a parent.
Yeah, I don't know if she logged in yet.
Okay, potentially a parent. Is there a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in
Action anticipated.
action, potential action anticipated, potential. Discussion, any, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We are going into executive session in a few minutes. Okay, we have risen from executive session, and is there a motion to accept the recommendation of administration with regard to a student matter?
So moved. Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Is there any further business before this board?
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, I hear a second. Discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We are adjourned at
9:18.
9:18.